Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next installment of the My Journey to Construction videos for BYF Indiana. We're thankful that you're here today to enjoy this quick conversation with a couple of industry professionals who will let us know about who they are, what they do, and why they ended up joining the construction field. Here with me today are both Steve Sandoval and Luis Gomez from Patrium, and I'm going to go ahead and just let them start us off by telling us who they are and what they do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Luis Gomez. I am the president of construction at Patrium, and I am in charge of field operations, looking for new business and making sure that all construction processes run smooth.
I'm Steve Sandoval Hernandez. I'm the vice president of Patrium. I'm in charge of the office, financing, and some pre-construction.
Awesome. Thanks. And again, thanks for being here. We're excited to have this conversation. For both of you, we'd love to know, why did you pick the construction industry? Why is this a field that you're passionate about? And why is this where you decided to spend your career?
I guess I could start with that. Construction has been a calling for me since a kid. I could really say that. I think for me, it all started in probably my parents' garage, where I started tearing up, blenders and anything that had a little electric motor. Just kind of hands-on, putting little stick houses up. And, I felt like it was my calling from the beginning. I chased it and I followed it all the way through high school and got involved in some construction classes and just started gearing myself towards the construction. Then I guess it almost came naturally. And it's one of those things where I found my passion at a young age, and I've been pursuing it ever since.
Part of our family are Masons, so we've always had some hand in construction, seeing our parents' business be full block or something of that sort. For me, it was more through the administration side. So I came through construction after managing a lot of restaurants and other businesses, kind of coming full circle into the construction industry when my brother proposed to me that we should open up a company.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, you mentioned it there, and I failed to mention it at the top. So you all are brothers. This is a family affair. Obviously, a great opportunity to continue some of that legacy. It sounds like that's part of your family. As you all look at your day-to-day job, what's your favorite part? What do you love about what you do?
Working with him, man. We grew up together. We were a year and a half apart. We grew up. We've always been together. So we have that natural friendship. And there's been one of the most important things when you have a company with somebody else is can you have uncomfortable conversations, and can you allow yourself to be uncomfortable in that conversation? Talk about finances, talk about very difficult things, right? And since we have that camaraderie, it comes natural to us when we have to resolve problems. So it's really rewarding to work with him.
I see the same things. Just construction industry. It sounds like it's all construction, but it's really not. There's a lot of aspects and different pieces that have to play together in order for this to be successful. And I can tell you that I feel very comfortable working with my brother. There's a level of trust there that we built throughout our childhood and now as an adult. And it's reflecting on how we do business and how we make decisions. So that right there, I think is one of the best things that I could say working in the construction industry, not to mention that, I get to do something that I love. So I don't really think that there's ever a day where I feel like I'm clocking in anywhere. I just simply get to live my life and enjoy the fact that I get to do something that I love.
That's awesome. We're talking today, the audience for this interview would be like high school students. And so they might be, 16, 17, 18 years old. Maybe they're in their first job ever. So what was your guys' first job ever? I'll share that I worked at Dairy Queen for 5 years. I mean, I was scooping ice cream. That's where I got my start. What about you guys?
My first job, I would say, was working for an uncle of mine that owned a cleaning company, and I used to go and wash all the DHL trucks. Must have been hundreds over the weekend. After that, I think I got a job at AutoZone where I worked for a few years. You know, although those are different areas, not necessarily related to construction, you know, you pick up little pieces here and there that help you work in the construction industry. I mean, it's you have to find some motivation to be able to wash a few hundred trucks in a weekend. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily construction, my first job, but it was a good start.
I did a lot of, well, I did a lot of work study stuff in college, moving tables, setting up events. I've worked taking care of instruments and rooms. And I also, I think the first like real corporate job, I was still late teens, was at Starbucks, actually.
Yeah.
Learning how to make drinks. I've always had a love for coffee. We had, I think 3 or 4 coffee trees growing up. Do you remember that? So I always had an interest in coffee. And again, none of these things really have to do with construction, but the soft skills that you learn dealing with other people, right? That come from different cultures and different backgrounds, and how to put minds together to solve things. You'd be surprised how in handy that comes.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think we'll, I want to talk more about that later for sure. We'll talk some more about those skills that are helpful in the industry. Before we get there, we talked to us a little bit about your high school careers. So what was high school like for you? What were you doing? Like, were you in extracurriculars? You know, what was high school like for your experience? If you had the opportunity, were you in like a shop class or a construction class, and what was that like?
I'll go ahead.
So I guess the best way I could describe my high school career was, it was pretty average. You know, I think just like everyone else, or the majority of us out here, you know, some classes are challenging, some classes come easy. Extracurricular activities, I was involved in the JROTC program, which I highly recommend any high school student to attend. You know, you learn a lot of discipline, and we've made some lifelong friends and mentors that we still stay in touch with, who helped us along the way, not only through our high school career, but some have hung in there up to our adult life, and you know, still have something to say about giving us good advice and being able to navigate this world.
In high school, I was an overachiever. Things came pretty easy to me. I was a straight A student, and which was great in high school. But what it did do is when I got to college, I didn't really know how to study. I didn't really know how to study and think deeply about a lot of stuff. So when it came time to write 20-page papers, I really didn't know how to space those out, because everything in high school, and I was in advanced classes, all that stuff came really easy. So the hard lesson for me in high school was how to study, how to learn how to study. If anybody in high school can learn how to do that, how to space things out, how to take bite-sized pieces from assignments, that's going to help you in life, right? Because construction is not something that's done overnight. We have a schedule. I mean, we've had schedules for a year and a half to 2 years. That's not something that you can just cram.
I think one of the things that we could add to that is that we both attended Arsenal Tech High School.
Yes. Oh, I extracurriculars, we were both involved in soccer. We loved JROTC. For those who don't know, Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. It's a military liaison in high school. They teach you leadership skills, first aid, and some physical training, some community skills. So we really learned. You were armed commander, right? The armed rifle commander for a couple of years. And I was a battalion commander my senior year. So we did the mentors that we had there, right? Sergeant Smith, First Sergeant Calloway, First Sergeant Reinar, Major Minner, all those people really drilled in us how to be leaders.
Yeah, so you've mentioned it a couple times, leadership, soft skills. If you don't mind, let's kind of go in that same vein. What are those types of things that are helpful to be successful in the construction industry? Luis, you said you got it cleaning DHL trucks. Steve, you said you got it working at Starbucks. What are some of those things? What are the pieces that aren't always, maybe they're not a certification, they're not a credential that you earn, but there are other pieces that help you be successful? What would you say are maybe one or two from both of you that really make the difference as you do this role or this industry day in and day out?
Two items that definitely stand out for me would be finding self-motivation, self-encouragement, and just being able to pretty much empower yourself in order to finish things that you don't necessarily agree with at the moment or physically want to do them. Sometimes you have to find the courage to push through and simply finish. A lot of the times, I would say an issue with people's careers most of the times when they fail is because they simply give up or give in at a certain point. And just being relentless and keep pushing through, I think, was something that I learned from being physically tired and being able to push through and knowing that there's an end eventually. And that I think one of the things that I learned that I carry with me from AutoZone, customer service, talking to people. I got placed in the industry that I had no idea of, which is the automobile industry. And the things that I learned there were customer service, being able to talk to people, which is very important, even at different levels, from a customer service standpoint, or from simply just having a conversation for interviewing someone to be able to join your team. That was definitely something that I picked up along those years that I spent there. And, maybe just to add on to that, being thrown into the automobile industry and not knowing a thing about it. I think a little courage, I learned a little bit of myself, knowing that I could swim in different areas, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you are fully, that you have all the information of. You may not know a thing, but you can become successful, and you can work that field if you want to. I guess I could say that to people or high school students that maybe see construction, don't necessarily see construction as an avenue, but it could be something that sparks a passion in them. And like I said, you don't necessarily have to be fully informed or fully, you don't have to know everything about that industry or anything at all in order for you to step into it if it piques your curiosity.
That's really important, yeah. And I would add to that, to that relentlessness, that courage that he spoke about in that customer service. I would ask problem resolution. You get placed. I understand the value of team projects. That's besides the grading and all that, but just being able to deal with people, right, that don't have the same goals. How do you get them on the same page? How do you get into the same mission? Because even if you're doing the same project, people have different goals, right? How to get people to work. That is something that those initial jobs really hammer down, because without other people, no man is an island. Without other people, you just can't succeed to the point that you want to.
I think that's really great. And in that vein of success, I'm going to throw a question out there, which I hope's all right. You mentioned earlier that this is your own company, and this is, you all getting started. I mean, would you mind quickly giving us the history for Patrium and how you got to where you are and where you guys spend your time, or how you specialize in the construction industry?
Yeah, that was the story of our 20s, right? Really.
Go ahead and take that one.
I think for me, I've always had an interest, very, very strong interest in administration of companies. So in logistics, how does a company get to that final product that they're now selling their customer, right? How do we get to that point? And I always saw managers and district managers and region managers and all that stuff. And I wanted to really learn, like, okay, how does that chain of command actually work? So a lot of my jobs in my 20s in the food industry, right, from Starbucks to Einstein's and family restaurants, to other things, in the automobile industry and real estate industry, was always with management in mind, with administration in mind. What's all the backlog? I was really interested in the backlog of the back work, the work behind the curtains, right? For you, it was a little different, no?
Yeah, I think just to step back a little bit, my brother and I have always talked about owning our own company and becoming, especially from high school and our younger years, we would always just talk about how one day we would own our own company. The Patrium started about close to 3 years ago, and we focus a lot on government work. We do work for the city of Indianapolis. We do work for the Indianapolis Housing Agency. We've done some work for the Black Expo. And the way this started was one day, I know it's going to sound pretty dry and boring, but one day we really didn't have any prospects for projects. We didn't have a company lined up or registered insurance or anything. We simply decided that it was now or never, because we would always talk about it. Literally the next day, went to work, submitted a 4-week notice.
Yeah.
We both quit our jobs and then started trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do. And one thing led to another. Our first project was a failure. We landed on our face on our first project. It was a little discouraging. Our second project was very successful. And I think that's just a story of Patrium. You win some and you lose some. And so far, we just, same thing as always, we just stay in the fight and we keep pushing forward. But this has been planned for, several decades ago. We just are now in the position where experience-wise, education-wise, we were ready to at least be able to back that up. So we pulled the trigger then, and so far it's been pretty good.
Yeah. So it was this world is owned by failures. I mean, you fail until you get to that point where you have enough experience, enough knowledge, and you've taken enough risks that you can succeed. And yeah, we did put those notices in, and of course we had some backing. We knew we could survive for a little bit, just from our previous experience. But we had the education, we had worked at these places where we've gained sufficient knowledge, as you stated. But yeah, it was now or never to take this risk. We can't just keep talking about it.
Yeah, I think that leap is incredible. That leap of faith, and it's not that much of a leap of faith when you're as confident, I think, as both of you are, and it sounds like you have a real passion around making it happen, which was for me inspiring to hear. As we wrap up, just kind of one or two more questions here. Again, high school students that are thinking about the industry, kind of final statement, what would you want to share with them, either about the industry or maybe some motivation or encouragement as to why you think the industry is a great choice for them, for their future?
Well, the best way I could describe it is just my view and my passion on it. I'm a huge construction nerd. I really love construction, and I think that a lot of people know what their calling is. I fought it, many times along the way, and I always used to think that construction was not necessarily the most prestigious work, but in reality, construction is creation at its best. We get to put all of our ideas together and to physically manifest something. In my humble opinion, it really doesn't get better than that. You could drive by, you could point out to your future generations and say, hey, I was part of that project. So construction is not something that you could just write down and forget about it. This is something that you can physically see every day, that other people enjoy, that your craft is actually being used by other people. Like I said, I'm a huge construction nerd. I could keep going round and round on that and talk about how passionate I feel about it. But I guess the one thing that I would tell a high school student is, especially if they're considering the construction industry, is, go out there, talk to people. A lot of the people that are out there in a job site are more than willing to answer your questions if you have any doubts. Maybe construction is not something that how you envision it is. It may be something a lot more fun and that you may think. Talk to people that are involved in the construction industry. It's creation at its best, in my opinion. You get to physically put things with your hands and your mind. And if you're able to do that in your world and for other people, the sky's the limit on what you can do for yourself.
He's really talking about there, and I agree. It's building something bigger than yourself, something that will outlast you. We signed this steel beam for this topping off ceremony, and for the structural steel for a 5-story building. Our signatures are there. Our mark is in that building. We'll show our son and our kids, and their kid. Those kids will show those kids. Our parents built that. Right, they were a part of that. From a pragmatic portion as well, along with prestige, we don't think that there's a lot of money in this industry, and there is. There's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room to make good money here, but the money has to be the result. It can't be the motivation. It has to be a result of the passions that you have, right? And really building that community for us is extremely important, and that's why we've had success so far, and that's how we plan to have success in the future.
To add on to that, I would say one of the things that, when you asked that question, just kind of brought me back on some of the decisions that I've made, at I guess pivotal points in my life, like where you go to college or what are you going to do to study. One of the things that I would highly recommend a high school student to do is to self-analyze your hard skills, your soft skills, and see what you're good at. Because if you can narrow down on what you're good at, if you're good at it, you're gonna feel good about doing that work because you're able to deliver a good product on whatever that may be. So a little bit of self-analyzing, maybe writing down some of your skills, and being, a little judgy with yourself and saying, hey, I'm good at this, I'm not so good at that. And the things that you are good at, if they do create that passion out of you, and it may be something that it is your calling, and that you may not necessarily be aware of yet, because in high school, a lot of us, and I was guilty of that, even though I had this calling for construction and I knew I had skills in certain areas that would help me in construction, I didn't necessarily know that I was going to get into construction. And had I not, I might be miserable somewhere else. But like I said, I live my life on a daily as if I don't have a job. So I simply work on my career.
It's so vast, man. You don't have to just stick to one career, right? We formed this company after so many years of working other jobs. So you don't have to stick to one career if it's not the career that you like, or that you feel a passion for, which you feel a passion. You can always change and you can always move, and there's so much opportunity in every area of construction, from pre-construction, from administration to field operations to skilled trades. I mean, there is so much in construction.
Accounting, there's design, there's engineers. I mean, if you're good at math, I think that you be a great fit anywhere, but in the construction industry, you could really be highlighted as a very skilled person. It doesn't mean you're going to go out there and swing a hammer. It doesn't mean you're going to be out there installing, framing or doing electrical work. Some people never go work in the construction industry and never swing a hammer. There's a lot of opportunity. It's much more. I think it's a lot more wide than just saying construction. When you say construction, people imagine you swinging a hammer, a construction site. When a lot of people don't know that a development project could take years before the construction phase begins, and construction phase is maybe 12 months, 8 months, and you spent years trying to get this project approved through the city, I mean, you name it, there's, legal. So it's a big world in the construction that if you're considering jumping in, I would highly advise to go out and poke your nose into all these areas that may be available, and you find something that you're passionate about and you have some skills on, you can be very successful in the construction industry.
Awesome. Well, we are through what we wanted to chat with you both about today. I want to say thank you again from BYF Indiana. Thanks for taking some time to sit down and have this conversation with me, which of course means also with the high school population that'll be watching this video. Before we say goodbye, I just one last chance. Is there anything else that you all want to share with the group? Anything else on your mind before we jump off today?
Go Tech Titans.
Go Tech Titans. And take risks.
That's awesome.
Risk it.
Yeah.
Gamble it.
That's awesome, guys.
Always worth it.
Well, thanks so much. We can't say enough how appreciative we are. We hope that you both and Patrium have all the success in the world, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us here.